Thank you guys so much for joining Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. This is episode 3. I am super fired up about this guest. This is a man here who, we just have a super special guest. He's a man that inspires me daily to be a better father, man, and husband. This is a man that's revolutionizing the way men think, act, and parent. This is a man that has a community of thousands and has built a 100,000 network in just 11 months on social media. This is a man I love and that we share a passionate mission about. I'm so pumped to introduce today Mr. Save Your Sons from Twitter. I love you, brother. Thanks for joining the pod.
Ty, man, thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here. Ever since we first connected, probably almost a year ago now, I'm inspired every day by your energy and your message. And I say this a lot to you online, but I really do think you're the highest energy guy on Twitter. So I'm going to do everything I can to match that level on the podcast right now. So if you catch me slip, it's later here where I'm at than where you are. So if you catch me slipping, just send me a little jolt so I can match where you're at.
I got you, brother. You're a man that I think we share a very similar mission and somebody that I've just been, attracted to from day one, man, because you preach the message. We've gotten to chat off screen a lot and just, I'm thankful for you, man. But, can you tell the listeners, just give them a quick intro, a little bit about you and who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Save Your Sons on Twitter, and I am on a mission to do everything I can to lower the rates of fatherlessness in the world. And that's important for a lot of reasons. I think we'll probably get into the statistics behind fatherlessness and all the bad outcomes that are more and more likely if a kid's growing up in a house without a dad. It's an uncomfortable subject. It's a subject that a lot of people don't want to talk about. But I'm convinced that it is the single largest leap we can make as a society to create better outcomes for our families is by encouraging more young men to approach their lives intentionally, to be proud of who they are and proud of what they're capable of, and be engaged, present dads for their families. And so that's that's who I'm trying to reach. That's who I'm trying to help. It's guys that are like me, like I was maybe 10, 15 years ago. It's guys that are like I am now, a relatively new dad trying to navigate life with a growing family, and we're just I'm trying to teach young men what I learned the hard way about approaching my life intentionally and improving myself and improving my situation and improving the world as I see it, so that they can be there for their families, so that they can be present and engaged dads, and so that we can create this virtuous cycle of more and more dads turning on, being engaged with their families, being excited about the future of their families and their legacies, so that we'll see all these negative effects of fatherlessness slowly start to decline.
And what a powerful mission, man. And can I ask you real quick, is this something that, did you have a great childhood? Can we hear a little bit about that? Did you have a strong present father? Was this kind of a light bulb moment for you when this came on? I know you have a 16-month-old, and congratulations. Probably keeps you really busy too, but, can you kind of share a little bit of your background with us in that sense?
Yeah, so the more guys I've met over Twitter, I've always kind of known this, but the more guys I meet over on the internet and Twitter and wherever, the more stark it is to me how fortunate I was growing up. I have a great family who I love very much, who I still talk to all the time. Who my dad was kind of your classic older generation, like boomer generation dad. He worked his butt off to give us a good life. He came to every soccer game. He came to every basketball game, every baseball game. And so from that perspective, there's nothing for me that there's nothing I could possibly complain about. What did happen, and I think this is common with a lot of guys from that generation with my dad, is when it comes to sort of the intentional side of parenting and I'm going to be really intentional about leading by example and explaining this example to you so that you understand why we do things the way we do in our family. A lot of that stuff kind of went unsaid. And again, I'm not trying, I know that there are guys that have it 1,000, a million times harder than I ever could have dreamed of. But what that meant for me as I sort of came of age as a man in my late teens and early 20s was that a lot of these sort of lessons about life were surprising to me. I sort of came of age and the world didn't really make sense to me because I had never done the work to understand it. And there was nothing there to really give me mental models to understand, well, okay, well, here's how you interact with women, or here's how you network to find a job. Here's how you save and invest money. Like all these sort of life skills, life lessons were really sort of new to me, because they were not something that I think guys from my parents' generation really were intentional about instilling. And in retrospect, that was a huge blessing, because it forced me to go through the discovery process, to learn a lot of these things on my own. And it was a real kick in the mouth when I sort of was in my early 20s and looking around at the world and being like, oh crap, like what do I how do I do this? How do I make something out of myself? And that sort of development phase of my life, I'm really grateful to have gone through it, because it taught me a lot, and it gave me a lot of the frameworks and the ways to approach life that I still use today in my daily life, and are a lot of the things that I talk about and I want to teach guys who are where I was maybe 15 years ago. And I think having these conversations with guys already kind of actively, I can tell that this is something that people really need. And it's something that people are really looking for. And so a lot of the stuff that I talk about in Save Your Sons University or on Twitter are these life lessons. Like here's how a man finds fulfillment. Here's how a man approaches his life. Here's what worked for me to be happy, and I think it'll work for you. And that's what we work through.
That's awesome, man. I can very much relate to that. I had a great father. He was just here, actually left this morning for 4 or 5 days. My parents flew in, and same kind of thing, man. My dad was at every game. I'm super grateful for it. And I think, as I kind of came to age, I never really faced adversity either. And then all of a sudden in my 20s, kind of like you, I was hit with some challenging things, and I didn't really know how to face those things, and it forced me to grow. And I love what you said there about, well, I'm grateful for it, because it forced me to grow. And I feel like everybody in their life is going to come to these points, right, where some adversity hits, and it's either going to change you in a really positive way, which it sounds like it did for you, and then you want to share that and help others, or sometimes it can beat you down. Do you have any advice for anybody who's maybe going through something like that right now, who's coming up against a wall, and what they can do to kind of get through that and grow through that?
Lift weights.
Yes.
I say that kind of half joking, but the main, like if you're a young, I speak to men almost exclusively, and a lot of people ask me why, and they sort of have this defense mechanism up, like, well, what about women? Why are you only talking to men? And my answer to that's really simple. I've never been a woman. I don't pretend to understand life from a woman's perspective. There are plenty of great, smart women out there who can help women. And I'm sure some of the things I talk about overlap, and that's great. But all I can talk about is what I know. And what I know is the perspective of a young man in America at the turn of the 21st century. And so that's the perspective that I share, and those are the people that I try to help. And if guys are getting to that sort of that early 20s age, and they're looking around and the world is surprising them, and they're saying, well, this isn't what I expected, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, the first thing I would say is like, yeah, you're right. Life is harder than they make it out to be. It isn't a freaking Disney movie. It isn't a storybook. It's hard. And the first thing you have to do is accept that responsibility. First thing you have to do is say, look, like, all right, I expected this to be easy. I expected things to get handed to me. We're going to throw that out the window right now. And that realization is the kick in the mouth that I got. It sounds like you're describing something similar. And that's the first step. And then the next step that I would always give to guys is to start doing something, anything, to make yourself better. That's where lifting weights is the classic advice that you get on like the self-help, self-improvement Twitter message boards. But there's a lot to it. There's a rationale behind it, because when we start making a change in our bodies, when we start improving ourselves and becoming stronger, and we look in the mirror and we're like, wait a minute, that guy's actually kind of jacked, that's pretty cool, we realize, oh, my actions had an actual tangible result, an actual tangible outcome that I'm observing right now. And that's a huge mental shift for guys who are in that place in their early 20s, when they feel powerless, they feel like there's nothing that they can do that matters. Lifting weights is a great first step, because it shows them that, oh, you actually can create positive habits in your life that have a very beneficial and obvious outcome. And if you can do that, what else can you do? What else is possible? the kickstart that I think all guys need is to start pouring into their self-development. You and I talk about this a lot, Tyler. Like, I really believe it. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give if you're empty. And so what young men need to do is to accept that nobody's going to hand anything to them. Life is harder than they think it's going to be, and they need to go make something of it. And the way you make something of it is by pouring into your development, by learning, by figuring out what you're good at, by learning about yourself, and by developing yourself. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And I just happen to be an acolyte for lifting weights, because that was what worked for me. It was kickstarted my whole life.
I can second that, man. I think it's a gateway drug to self-improvement.
Yeah, it is. If nobody has trademarked that, you should.
I think I heard it from Dan Go, Fit Founder, of course, the wizard.
Oh yeah, well he would know.
It's so true though, man, because at this point in my life, like if I got no physical benefit from lifting weights, I'd still get up every morning and lift weights, because what it does for my mind, what it does for my energy, what it does for my outlook on life, just pushing yourself to do hard things. And hey, I think, we live in a society now where if we don't push ourselves, dude, everything's comfortable, right? Like I could get off this podcast, I could order Uber Eats, food could be right at my door. I can change it from 68 to 69 if I feel any kind of discomfort. I got a comfortable bed, I got a warm shower, all these things, right? And we're blessed to have that and grateful for a lot of it. But if we don't kind of seek that discomfort, well, you don't really grow. And I feel like that's what a lot of men don't realize, right?
Yeah, it has to be. The greatness has never been achieved without struggle. You can't grow without pain. And I think that's what, if you had to sort of distill that realization of a young man in his early 20s, that's probably it. It's like, oh wait, if I want anything, I have to work, and it's going to hurt, and that's good. And so that's
I like that. Life seems to be counterintuitive a little bit, right? Like if you want a really easy life, you got to do all these hard, uncomfortable things. And then I feel like life gets pretty easy. But when I sought comfort, and that was my whole thing, I just wanted to be comfortable, I was pretty miserable.
Yeah. It's funny how that works.
It is, man. Well, have you, I know you're in a like a startup right now and working and building your platform online. I sort of had this light bulb moment in corporate where I was in banking and running a bank. And I kind of thought in my 20s, hey, a man's job is just to provide, right? And I wasn't really intentional about these other things. And my first year of corporate banking, I was kind of a stud, man. I took my staff from the last place branch up to one spot away from a first place, got a huge bonus. And this is what I wanted to do, and I neglected my marriage. I wasn't a great dad. I wasn't in shape at the time. You've probably seen the pictures, the big chubby dad bod. And then I'll never forget, man, I went to meet my boss's boss where he gave a talk. And at this time, my goal is to keep moving up corporate. And I wanted to run a bunch of branches and be successful in this. And he gave a speech about what it took to make your way up in corporate. And I remember him saying he had 4 children, and for 7 years, he would fly to New York 6 days a week and then fly home 1 day. And, this guy makes $1 million a year, $2 million a year, whatever it is. And I remember all the other managers being like, wow, this guy's a stud, he's successful. And I left that meeting just knowing I'm going to find my way out. This isn't going to be my life. Like, I want to be home. I want to be intentional. Some of like what you're saying with your children, I want to be the one that's there to teach these life lessons. And it seems like you actively kind of carve that in your family. Even your son is 16 months old. You're always giving him these lessons and being there, playing with them. We just talked off the pod a little bit about that. Can you kind of describe your day-to-day family life, sort of what led you then to be so intentional and to be so present when you're there and make that like the number one priority in your life?
Yeah, I think it's all kind of tied into the Save Your Sons and what sort of started my journey on with the Save Your Sons account and SYS University. But when we were expecting the birth of our son was when I had sort of, for a long time, I'd been really familiar with the fatherlessness stats. And so for a long time, it's, when like you hear something and it just plays over and over in your head and you can't quite forget it. I don't remember where I first heard all of these stats, but when I made that connection between bad social outcomes and fatherlessness in our world, it clicked for me. I was like, that's it. That's the key. That's the secret to creating a better, happier society, is we've got to turn more guys on to being active and engaged dads. Couple that with our son's coming, and I'm like, wow, like I'm actually gonna have my chance. Like you better put up or shut up. Like this is the rubber hitting the road. And what I started doing was I just started writing. I started writing all of these things down that had happened to me in my early 20s, all the things I had to do to put myself in a position to be an active and engaged dad, a fulfilled man, I like to think I am, and a happy man with a happy marriage and a happy family, extended family. And all of the, I wouldn't have any of that if I hadn't gone through that trying period in my early 20s. And so I started writing down these life lessons. And the theory was I wanted to get these down so that if something happened to me, my wife would have something to give our son so that he wouldn't have to go through sort of or I could maybe shorten the learning curve for him. Maybe. I mean, some lessons you got to learn on your own, I think, but that was the idea.
Wow, that's
And
powerful, man.
yeah, and so that's what really kind of, those two things combined really spurred the creation of Save Your Sons. And then as people resonated with the message, and I realized, like, okay, there really is something about this message that people are engaged with and that matters to people. People are ready to talk about this stuff. I started beginning the vision of where Save Your Sons is going to fit in our ultimate vision that my wife and I wrote down for our life. And it became a long term. I very quickly realized, like, this is something that I want to do forever. This is the mark I want to make on this world. If I can lower the rates of fatherlessness by 5% on my deathbed, okay, that's great. I'll be happy with that. And we built that into our vision and our mission for our family. And what it looks like now is I have to devote the time to it, because if you don't pay attention to it, you'll lose momentum and you won't fulfill the vision that you have for it. And I have to balance my 9-to-5 job that I still enjoy, that I'm very invested in and engaged with, that is meaningful work in itself. And I have to balance being an active and engaged dad. And that's kind of, and a husband too, by the way, which my wife is upstairs and she's incredibly supportive about all this. And I can't believe every day I'm blown away at how her level of support and just love for what we're trying to achieve.
And I love that you said, your vision and your mission together. And I think to be really fulfilled as a man and even as a husband and wife, like my wife and I always talk about our legacy. We hire sitters at least twice a week now, sometimes just to take a walk together. And we just talk about our legacy, our life, our, what we want to create, sort of a mission bigger than ourselves. And man, and no wonder you're so fulfilled, when you have that with your wife as well, man. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's some of my favorite conversations that we've had. And like, it's really easy to sort of write it off as like daydreaming, but really you're being more intentional than that. You're like, we do what I call it. I've heard this from other people too. I didn't invent this, I don't think, an obituary exercise where you talk about, like, okay, what do you want your obituary to say about you? And we list it off, and we sort of recite what we want to have achieved when we die. We visualize what life's going to be like on our 100th birthday together. And so, yeah, it's sort of like daydreaming, thinking about the future. But the beauty of it is, if you become detailed enough in the picture that you're painting, and you really get into, like, okay, well, what's the weather like at your birthday? Who's there? What music's playing? What clothes are you wearing? If you become really granular in how you're detailing it, it becomes much easier to reverse engineer that vision. And you can create sort of milestones and objectives along the way. Like, well, if this is what we want when we're at that age, if this is what our vision for our family is when we're at that age, A, B, C, D, and E, and F things are going to have to happen. And they're going to have to happen at certain intervals. And for A, B, C, D, E, and F things to happen, X, Y, Z things are going to have to happen leading up to those. And so it sort of becomes like a corporate goal setting exercise where you're like, if I know this is what I want, if this is the ultimate objective, the ultimate mission, how do I work backwards into that? And you can set these mini goals. And we don't do what you guys are talking about, what I know you and your wife do, which we need to start. But like a great example of what a mini goal would be is, in order to achieve your vision, you need a lasting, enduring love relationship with your wife. Okay, well, one of your objectives along the way, one of your key results in that is going to be, you have to be intentional about spending time together. And so you guys hire a sitter so you can spend time together. That's a great example of how this sort of goal setting exercise works. And that's the way we approach it. That's the way I approach business, and I could bring it in some to my family life as well. But it seems to work, and it seems to allow for a good, easy communication system and also a good balance.
I couldn't agree more, man. If I could switch the camera down here, I have like 7 notebooks. One of them is just like long-term vision and goals for me and my wife. Some of them are long-term vision and goals for where I want my business to go, for finance, where I want my faith to be at. I'm constantly trying to update these things, audit these things, be very intentional and mindful. And like you said, that was so key, reverse engineer it. If you know where you want to get to, then all you got to do is work it back, right? And that's a great tip for anybody listening out there. Just have that vision in your mind of where you want to go, and then just work out what it takes to get there every single day. And that's what I did when I was quitting my job too, is just where do we need to be at financially? Where do we need to be at month to month income? Where do we need to be at in all these things? Then you just work it out every day. Just get up.
Yeah, you got to think, and there's no shortcut for that, but it's the same exercise as if I want to get across town. Okay, well, how do I do that? if I want to get to my wife's parents' house, well, I know I got to take certain roads and certain turns, and I have to do things that I have to leave at a certain time if I want to get there by a certain time. And it's the same idea.
That's right. I love that. Well, you mentioned earlier some statistics, man, and I did some research before the pod, and we've talked again a little off, but these are some really crazy statistics that I kind of wanted to go over with you and kind of hear your reaction to. And here's a few. 1 in 4 kids in the U.S. will grow up without a father. Now, before I go any farther, I'm going to say shout out to all the single moms, because I know several and they are just killing it and they do their best. And I'm always amazed at what they can get accomplished. But 1 in 4 is pretty huge. Here's the stats on the children that are in those homes. They're 5 times more likely to commit suicide with no dads present. They're 32 times more likely to end up as a runaway or homeless as a teen. They're 9 times more likely to drop out of high school. 70% of all juveniles that are incarcerated come from fatherless homes, and 80% of all convicted rapists come from fatherless homes. So when we say all aspects of society would benefit from strong present fathers, we really mean all aspects. What's your thoughts? What's your takeaways when you hear some of those statistics?
Yeah, it's not an exaggeration. It is not an exaggeration to say that the largest leap we can take as a society is to increase the proportion of our dads in our homes who are engaged. And a lot, it's a loaded subject, and I don't get into anyone who follows me knows I sort of intentionally stay away from a lot of the really overly sort of political stuff about it. And I really want to keep the message on the message, which is the one thing we have control over from where you sit, Ty, and from where I sit, is we can help young men become engaged dads. We can do that. And that's what I can control, and that's what I'm going to affect. And the scale you affect it with, it depends on the time you invest and how good you are at spreading your message and marketing. but all I know is what I can affect right now is that I can encourage young men to be engaged dads, and I can give them the tools they need to find fulfillment in their lives. And if they have fulfillment in their lives, they'll be there for their kids. They'll be there for their sons and their daughters, so their sons and their daughters can be there for their sons and their daughters. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm here for. And it's sort of staggering to think about, if you are able to scale that and you are able to sort of make this massive social change, social movement, what could happen. So I try not to get too far ahead. I mean, I do have a long-term vision. I've written it all down, but I try to focus on right now and who we can help right now. And that's what it is. It's can we find one guy who might be thinking about leaving his family, and can we give him the tools so that he makes a different decision? Because that one decision that he might make is going to have second, third order effects that we're going to feel as a society. Everybody's going to feel it.
That's right. That ripple effect is so huge, man. Maybe he's got a few kids that then grow up and they model what their father did, and they model, and they could have gone a different direction. And yeah, I think that's really how you change the world. You had a tweet one time that really resonated. You said, what if we can just change it, move the needle 1%? What would that do to society? And I really had a thought exercise and experiment with that. And man, the ripple effect of that would just be huge for generations and generations down the line, man. So I just respect all the work you're doing and putting in with your university. I want to get more into that too. Can you kind of describe a little bit about your university? I've gotten a look in there, and it's really cool. Can you kind of say day to day what you and a lot of the men in there go through?
Yeah. So what it is a private online community where you don't have to be a dad to join. There's a lot of dads in there. There's a lot of young men in there who might have grown up with a great dad, or who might have grown up with a bad dad, or might have grown up with an absent dad. And what we talk about is what it takes to be a fulfilled man. And we have all sorts of different categories that are important for a man to find fulfillment in his life. We talk about diet, we talk about exercise, we talk about habits, we talk about personal finance, we talk about business, we talk about testosterone. I mean, all the sort of holistic things that I think play a role in making a man happy. And then we tie it all together by saying, okay, you're building this life for yourself. So what? So that you can what? And that's where a lot of the magic happens, is you've got guys who are starting families, who are brand new, who are newly married. You've got guys who are going through really hard times, really rough times, some of the hardest things you can go through as a man. And what we do is we talk about those things. We're there for each other. It's a place where people can be really private, not worry that anyone they don't want to see, they don't want to know about their personal business is going to find their personal business. We don't share anything that we talk about outside of there. We're as vague as possible. And it's a place where men can talk about these difficult things, and they can't really do it in a lot of our other forums on the internet, and a lot of our other forums in life. And one of the most rewarding things I asked in the side there today, it's like I think I said a message board format. I just was curious. I was like, to the guys that are in there, you know, what's been your favorite part of the Save Your Sons University community so far? And one of the guys said, this is, I'm trying to share without breaking our anonymity. I think this is safe though, to say, this is the type of stuff that I couldn't talk about with my closest friends. Mm. And that really struck me. I was like, man, that's exactly what I was hoping to have here, is stuff that, you know, you've got people in your life that you have known your whole life, but you're always on that surface level with them. Okay. And that they might still be great additions to your life, and you love them and you keep them as a part of your life. But as men, we have to dig deeper. And I don't believe any man can do that alone. I think they need a community, they need a tribe, they need that brotherhood. And that's what we're providing for guys. And we're letting guys really dig deep, really examine themselves and improve themselves so that they can ultimately be that present and that great engaged dad.
Man, that's so wonderful, man. And that mission, yeah, I remember, you know, my whole life, my whole conversations with men were just, you know, who's winning the game, who's the sports, we're having beers, like this. This is what society teaches you is normal. We don't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about, you know, our struggles, things like this. And then maybe 5 years ago, my great brother, Jim Albert, shout out to Jim. I love you, buddy. If you're watching this, he just invited me. He said, Ty, I run a men's group, and you know, you're a high energy, fun, cool guy. Would you like to come and check it out? And I just said, sure. I thought maybe we were watching a ball game. I didn't really know, you know, and, you know, get to his house and it's just him and one other guy and me the first night. This thing ended up growing pretty big, but, you know, we just shared some stuff, and I shared that, you know, hey, I was struggling in my marriage at the time. I'd never told anybody that. I just struggled alone. And some of these seasoned men that had been married 30 years could give me actionable advice that would help me a lot. And then some other guys that maybe struggle in other areas that I was stronger at, I could help them. And there's such a power in community. I remember leaving that night at about 9:30, and I gave my brother Jim a hug, and I knew my life was going to change there. I knew I didn't want these surface level friendships as much anymore. Not that there's anything wrong with that, like you said, that can add to your life, but I really seek out those deep, meaningful, let's grow together, let's get better together relationships. And it seems like you do too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not one of those guys that's like, you know, that shuns small talk. I think small talk plays an important function in our collective society. It's a good way to judge, you know, who's a friend and who's a foe, and who might be dangerous or who might be like a sociopath. So there's a place for small talk always. But as a man who wants to develop himself, you're going to have a much, much harder time, if not an impossible time, if you don't have other guys who have been through it, who you can reflect with, speak with, get deep with, and talk about some of these harder concepts with. And that's what I think a lot of guys are realizing, is we've sort of become this society of men who get together and drink beer and watch football on the weekends. And you know, for whatever reason, it's become unfashionable, or it's not popular or acceptable to talk about. I wouldn't go up to my buddy at a fantasy football draft and be like, so what are your personal values, and how have you defined them with your wife? You know, like, we just don't do that.
I know we were going to be best friends though, by the way, if you came up and said that to me at this point.
So I think there's that guys are kind of realizing, like, you know, I need that, I want that, and it's okay for me to seek that out. And to the extent that I can facilitate that, the more the better.
Yeah, that's huge, man. You mentioned earlier some of the routines, habits. I know you're a big systems guy too. For anybody listening out there that might be new to self-improvement or just kind of tuning in to hear what you had to say, can you give like your best few advice, your tips for maybe some systems, routines, habits that you do daily that you've done that you found to be very successful in helping you grow as a man?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of the things my wife and I disagree on, and we have funny arguments about it. But I am very much of the school of like, I want every single day to be exactly the same. I want to wear the same clothes. I want to eat the same food. I want to get up at the same time. I want to be doing the same things at the same time of every day. And that's just comfortable for me. And maybe that's like a undiagnosed OCD. It might be, I don't know. But that's what really works for me. And then if it worked for me, it probably could work for other guys. I fully understand my wife's perspective, which is like, wait, you could really eat ground beef for dinner every night for a week and not get sick of it. and like, I'm like, yeah, I know that maybe that is weird when you say it out loud. But for me, it's all about routine, and it's all about routine is a habit for me. And so I do the same thing every morning. The very first thing I do is I go downstairs, and it's just my time with myself. And I don't look at my phone. I am in the bad habit of like sleeping with my phone. So I'll check it for like a minute. I'll admit to that before I go downstairs, but I don't look at it for very long. And then I go downstairs and I just have nothing, but it's like it's not technically meditating, but it's visualizing my day and visualizing the next week and visualizing the next month and planning out what I'm going to do to advance my family life, my business life, and my career life that day. And that I try to do that for 30 minutes every day. And then every day it's time with my son. This is before I get up and go to work, and it's us running around the house. It's getting him dressed. It's giving him his first meal of the day, whatever. And that's quickly become, now that he's walking and running, one of my favorite times of the day, because he's really,
that's got to be the highlight of your day at this point.
Oh man, he's so funny. He's just like all over the place and like touching it, like getting everything. He just wants to understand the world, and it's so fun to watch.
Awesome.
And so then I go to work, and then around 3 p.m., 4 or 5 times a week, I'll go to my gym. I'll get a lift in, and then I go home, and we do dinner as a family. I do bath time. I mean, it's literally the same thing every day. Bath time with my son, bedtime with my son. Then I have a few hours at night to either spend with my wife, connecting, doing relaxing, unwinding, or working on Save Your Sons. And that's really it. So a long-winded way of answering, some guys really, really need that routine. And if you find yourself gravitating towards that, lean into it. Take options away from yourself, and a lot of that anxiety will go away. I don't think about what I'm going to wear. I've got like 5 pairs of jeans that are all the same and like 6 sweaters that I wear. You don't have to think about it.
I think that's so powerful, man, because we make how many choices a day? 40,000, 50,000 choices. The research.
That's what I've heard.
And yeah, I'm 100% back. Well, number one, I never wear a shirt, so I don't have to think about that.
Yeah, you don't ever have to worry about that.
That's huge. But dude, you mentioned the ground beef, and I was chuckling to myself. I ate the same exact lunch for 3.5 years at office. I meal prepped it every Sunday. I love systems and routines too, man. Every Sunday I make grilled chicken. Sometimes I make it teriyaki, sometimes season it different, and 2 vegetables. And I literally ate the same thing for lunch for 3.5 years every single day. It was amazing, and I'd lay my clothes out the night before. All these little systems, habits, routines. I agree with you that a lot of men shy away from that. Well, I can't do that. I'm not a morning person. I'm not this. And, another big point I think you made that I would like to touch on is, hey, you get up before your family, right?
Yeah.
So by the time your family wakes up, you've filled yourself up. You've done the prayer visualization. You've put that work into yourself. And you mentioned earlier, you can't pour from an empty cup. Now you're filled up. And now you can just pour into them. And I think that's such a powerful thing, man, for as men to just get up even a little bit before your family and work on yourself.
Yeah. And it's not, there are a lot of guys that shy away from it that say, I'm not a morning person, or, that just doesn't work for me. And that's the kind of attitude that holds a lot of guys back. The classic, the meme is like, well, that's a limiting belief. Well, that's exactly what it is. You're limiting yourself. You can be a freaking morning person. You can be. It's just going to take a little bit of discomfort, and you're going to have to get used to it, but you're going to have to decide that that's more important than you feeling comfortable all the time and feeling happy all the time. And so I would, is it for everybody? Of course not. It's not. Nothing is for everybody. I don't believe anything is, but it's a really, really effective way for me to gather my thoughts, sort of fill myself up, energize myself in the mornings, and be ready to attack every single day with the same energy level, same enthusiasm that people need from me.
That's right. Because if you're not your best, you're kind of, in a sense, letting them down. And that's how I felt as a man for a while when my daughter was, 1 and 2. And, I was working this job, very low energy. And you mentioned anxiety, man. I was on anxiety meds, and I think it's because, dude, I had no systems, no routines, no discipline. And then, the key piece for me, and again, you mentioned it doesn't work for everybody, but I think there's principles that do. And I think one of those is discipline. And if I always say you have to have self-integrity. And I think that's the most important thing in life. If I tell myself I'm getting up at 5:05, it doesn't matter if the kid was up at night. It doesn't matter. I promised myself and I'm getting up at 5:05. It doesn't matter, And I think having that integrity to yourself, having that discipline that's what sets people apart, right?
Yeah, I mean, self-integrity. I like that. I need to remember that phrase. It's a good way to describe it.
It's a pretty big one for me. I watched another podcast with Joel. Shout out, Read Your Keys, Lopez, man.
Oh yeah.
And one thing you said that just stuck out to me so much was, as a father, you think a lot of their job, and it made me journal last couple of nights on it, to be honest, was protecting your kids in a way as they grow older and kind of limiting their influences or who they're around. Because let's be honest, hey, I'm a better guy because of my interactions with you and with Dan Go and with Zach Hommel and with all these great people that I, can have community with now, and a lot of the men that I deal with in my everyday life too. So as a role as a father, how do you kind of see that as your son gets bigger, as your children get bigger? Have you kind of mapped that out in your head, or what that looks like?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest concerns that I think any parent has, if they really think about it, is, well, what happens if my kid, who I love more than anything, grows up and gets involved with the wrong crowd, and they run around with a bunch of knuckleheads and they get in trouble, or they get into drugs or whatever, or they get arrested. And I'll say, I don't talk much about my past, but I was that kid. I was a wild kid, and I'm thankful that I made it out, and I never got in any serious trouble. But I was the kind of kid who would have been probably considered a bad influence at the time. And so I think a lot about that. And I think, well, why did that happen? And I've really come to a realization, this is more recently, actually one of the things we talked about a couple of weeks ago with Kala on the Saturday morning shows, the Future Father shows that we do. Mm-hmm. And it was, what causes a kid to go out and seek a friendship? And I was just really trying to boil it down into its elements. Like what drives us as humans to seek a friendship, to seek connection with another person? And really it all gets back to acceptance. We want to feel accepted by somebody, by anybody. And when we're 12, 13, 14 years old and we don't feel accepted, or we don't feel like anyone really support is the wrong word, but anybody really thinks that we're great and thinks that we're there, that anyone is proud of us. If we don't feel that level of acceptance from our family, we're going to seek it out somewhere else. And to me, that's where the big risk comes in, because when you have a 12, 13-year-old kid, they are going to seek out this feeling of being a part of something, of being accepted. And if they don't get that from us, from their parents, they're going to find it somewhere else. And that's where you run this big risk of getting into the wrong crowd and of not being able to protect your kids from these terrible influences. So again, this is theoretical for me, obviously, because we haven't been there yet. But what I think and what I fully intend on doing is making sure that all my kids feel that acceptance from me, that they know how proud I am of them, that they know how much they mean to me, that there's not a shadow of a doubt in their mind that they are my world and that they are everything to me. And if they feel that acceptance from me, it's going to be less likely that they go seek acceptance from somewhere else, from some negative, which could or could not be from a negative source. And so then all that's left as dads is we make them feel that acceptance. We make sure they know that we're proud of them, that we know that they think they're great. And we think they're talented and they're capable of great things. We give them this sort of self-belief and self-confidence. Then it's on us to model a great life. Model how a man approaches his life, model how a man treats his wife, model for their mom, model how a woman approaches their life, how parents interact with each other, so that they feel accepted by that and they have something great to go on. Because as parents, we're also at a great advantage when it comes to the modeling behavior that kids see. They're looking for a model to follow. They're looking for a role model to follow. There's nobody else they'd rather be like than us, until we give them a reason not to, until we start messing around and we start disappointing them in some way, which we're always going to disappoint them somehow, but on the whole. And so I really think that that's the strategy, is model what a great relationship looks like, model how an effective and fulfilled man approaches his life, and give them that level of acceptance so that they don't go seeking it somewhere else.
That's huge, man. And I'm actually thinking back as you say that. I was a camp counselor my senior year of high school and freshman year of college. And we had a couple kids that were always bullies and always mean to other kids. And when we would find out their home situation, I'm thinking back to a couple kids specifically who are probably adults now, but it was a long time ago. But they never had dads, man. The few kids that I can think about, they had a rough home life. And I think you probably do just up the odds so much if you can be that strong, present father that models it. It doesn't just talk about it, right? But models it. And I see that in my own home. My daughter's 6, and there's a lot of Saturdays, man, where, or she comes home from school and I just say, hey, you got dad for 2 hours. What do you want to do? Dude,
Yeah.
She wants to do my row machine with me now. She wants to, go swimming, go for a walk, go run around at the park. Why does she do these things? Well, because that's what I do, she just wants to do the things that I want to do too. And it's a powerful thing that when your kids kind of see you modeling that life that you hope they live too, right?
Yeah, there's nobody else they want to be like, especially when they're young, than their parents.
Yeah.
And that'll continue as they get older if we've done the right things when they're young. But there's nobody else that they want to be like until we give them some reason not to.
Yeah, I think that's true, man. Well, I want to pivot real quick to social media growth, man, because, okay, you've been on Twitter 11 months. Is that right? You've not yet had your 1-year anniversary?
I've had a 1-year anniversary. So we might have been talking earlier and I said 11, but really it's 13.
13 months.
13. Yeah. So it was August.
And you have 110,000 teammates. Is that right? Somewhere in that neighborhood, just on Twitter?
So yeah, a little less, 100, 105, something like that. 100.
So, when you kind of crafted this vision and this, hey, I want to create this community, did you ever see it exploding like it has? And can you maybe give some other people out there who might think, hey, I have a message that I really want to share with the world and resonate too, and I'm not really sure how to do that. Could you kind of maybe give some people some tips on that?
Yeah, definitely. And to the first question, did I expect this? Like, absolutely not. No way. I still don't really understand it, and it doesn't sink in. Like I when I zoom out and I really think about like what that means, it just doesn't register with me. It's like, all right, whatever. Like, okay, but I'm still the same guy. I'm still just like trying to do my normal life. And in a lot of ways, I don't think it's that I don't know. I'm rambling on, but
well, I think you don't have an ego, so you're not like one of these guys who goes around telling everybody I have 100,000 followers. You're still the same person, right? Like people will say that, like, oh, you got a big following. What are you gonna do? Well, the same thing I do every day.
It's like, I don't know. Like the reason I'm hesitant to say this is because I don't want anyone to think like I take it for granted, and I don't want anyone who is like trying to grow an online brand to think that I'm like downplaying how important or how meaningful it is, but it's not even close to the most important thing in my life. And it doesn't even, I made so many mistakes in my earlier life, and I got kicked in the mouth so many times and humbled so many times that the thought of something like this, like, I don't know, changing me or making me sort of think differently of myself, like, it's preposterous. Like, I'm like, I still like, I struggle with like regrets just like any man does, and have a framework for sort of approaching those. But I still think like, okay, well, you have 100,000 followers, but like, remember when you were 20 and you were such an idiot? Like, Like it just it's like not it's I don't know. I don't want to say it's not a big deal because I know to a lot of people it really really is a big deal, but the truth is to me it's not. Like I don't think about it that much, and I try to just keep doing what I've been doing that's been working so that more people can attach to the message and more people can be helped by it.
And it
And
goes back to you having that vision and mission bigger than you, and I feel like whenever that happens, that's when it really takes off, most of the time from what I've seen.
yeah, I mean, like I haven't really shown many people my face, and I don't want that. Like I don't want the attention. I don't want it to be about me at all. I want it to be about the message and the vision that we're trying to achieve for the world. And so that's a great segue, I think, for anyone who is trying to grow a Twitter account. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about like why this happened and what sort of, if anything, I did to affect it. And the best advice that I give people is the most important thing you have to do is figure out why you're doing this. Like when guys DM me and they're like, how did you do that? How did you grow your account? The first question I ask is, well, what's your vision for your account? What are you trying to achieve with your account? Why are you doing this? And 9 guys out of 10 can't answer that question. And I say, well, that's the first question you have to answer. And so once you have your vision, then you can sort of craft your message and you can craft the rhetoric around it and learn how to say it in a way that people attach to and that people engage with. And that's what we talk about when we say you want to develop good content. You want your content to be good, and content is made up of what you say and how you say it. And on Twitter, it's words are everything. And so you have to get good at that. And then you have to network. So you have to make friends. Like Ty, you and I talk at least every other week, a lot more often than that, a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of guys that I talk to all the time on Twitter that I've become really good friends with. And we work on business together. We work on life together, all those things. So just like any other job, you want to network and make friends, and you're stronger together if you do that. And then the last part's consistency. You just don't quit. I mean, there were days when I first started my account that I would lose followers for the day. Like I would have 300 followers, and then I would wake up the next day and I'd have 280. And I was like, but I didn't quit. I just was like, well, I still have more stuff I want to say, so I'm going to freaking say it. And then the next thing you know, you get better as time goes on, and people start attaching to your message if you've crafted your message right, and it starts growing.
Yeah, I think consistency is undefeated in anything, whether that's weightlifting, whether that's like being an intentional dad and showing up every day. You're always going to get kicked in the teeth, man. We've all had tweets where we think they're awesome. You fire them out, and then like you check back 2 hours later, they got 4 likes, and you're like, what is going on? I've lost.
And then some comment that's like, I hate you. You're so dumb. Like what an idiot. And like that's all people see when they open the tweet is just someone calling you an idiot. Yeah.
Yes, man. We've all been humbled there, but I think the key is to just never give up. That's right. And I think a lot of people give it the old college try with a lot of things they do. Well, I'm going to work out. I've only lost 2 pounds in 3 weeks. Well, dude, if you do that for 1 year, do the math. You're gonna lose 40 pounds. Like,
yep.
If Twitter's the same thing, man. Well, I only gained 100 followers. Well, dude, it's exponential. Just stick with it, right?
Yeah, that's it. You got to show up. You can't quit. You can't. You do need to change, and you need to learn, and you need to iterate. But you're never going to succeed if you expect it to happen really quickly. I mean,
yeah, I like that.
It's relative, but you got to show up.
Why behind it, man? That's a good. Anybody who DMs me and asks me now, I'm going to say that too. Hey, Save Your Sons taught me. It's why behind it. I really like that. Well, do we come into a time in the pod? It's my favorite time. I love this. It's called rapid fire questions.
Oh boy!
I'm going to fire out 5 rapid fire questions for you. Just give me first thought that comes to mind, brother. All right.
All right. We'll see how.
I know you're a beast in lifting too, because I've seen you. But what's your favorite go-to song if you're trying to hit a PR on like deadlifts or heavy squats or something like that? You have a song you'll pull up?
Ooh, God, I'm already gonna fail this. I listen to like books on Audible.
Give us a fired up book then, man. What do you got?
Psycho-Cybernetics, baby. Psycho-Cybernetics. Put that on. You will be as motivated, as amped up as you could ever want to be. Psycho-Cybernetics, and then the old classic Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends, Influence People. It gets a lot of hate, but I've probably listened to that one like 6 times.
That's awesome. Okay, couple good tips there. I like that. No wonder you're so wide. Your threads, by the way, are just absolutely amazing. I think I've bookmarked like 15 of your threads, man, to go back and read and take some notes on. Like this is why, because you always got books going in your head. I see, man. I like that. All right. Favorite thing to do with your family on a day off?
Favorite thing to do with the family? Go to the lake and sit in the lake with my son and watch him splash and swim around in the water, build sandcastles, maybe grill out some ground beef, some burgers or hot dogs, and just be outside in the sunshine.
That's awesome, man. I resonate with that for sure. What's your all-time favorite book that's impacted you the most?
Oh, well, Psycho-Cybernetics.
There we go.
If anybody hasn't read that one, man, it is so. I mean, it's kind of pop psychology. Okay, I'll give you that, but it's really actionable, practical things you can do to change your self-image. And I believe the way that you think and talk about yourself is everything. And if you read that book, you'll never think and talk about yourself the same way again.
And that voice is with us 24/7, right? It kind of makes sense to program it. And,
yeah, you got to brainwash yourself, or someone else is going to do it for you.
Man, that's powerful right there. That's exactly right. Let's see. What's one tip for soon-to-be dads? What's the one thing you could share with soon-to-be dads that you would like to share with somebody that's upcoming father?
Get a really, really strong diaper pail. You need the like 2-ply triple reinforced bags that are like lined with Arm & Hammer baking soda resin that go in like the lock box that are made out of aluminum. Like, invest in a strong diaper pail, because otherwise your house is gonna smell. It won't at first until they start eating solid foods at what, like 9 months. But as soon as they start eating those solid foods, you're gonna want a strong lock box of a diaper pail, or else you're not gonna be able to have company over, because it's gonna be too embarrassing, because your house is gonna stink.
That's a very good tip. We got 2 right now, man. So I got one that's like one that's 11 months, and they're both eating solid food. And so me and my wife, actually, we're goofy. We had this bet the other day of when my daughter's tooth would come out, and we both picked dates, and she won. So my punishment was I had to watch every poopy diaper for the whole day, which is like, we got 2 boys, man. He has like 15 diapers or whatnot. But I agree with you 100%. Man. I actually change them, and I take the boys both arms, man. I run outside, I throw them outside.
Yeah, that's you got to just start doing that. Is just take them directly out, because it's just too much, man.
Yes,
it's foul.
Man, the last guest I had on was Nate. I love Nate Chronicles and Nate on Twitter. He actually sang a cappella a song, Amazing Grace. I'm not going to ask you to do that, but what's like one unique talent that you have, or one skill that people might not know you have?
I am a guitar player, and I've played guitar my whole life, and I've played in front of thousands of people in bands for years. Haven't done it as much since COVID started, and once we had our baby, obviously that took a lower priority. But I've always sort of loved playing lead guitar, writing songs, singing songs with my band. I'm not going to sing a cappella, because I need a full band behind me to drown out the imperfections in my singing voice. But yeah, I love music, play all kinds of instruments, and guitar is my favorite.
That's awesome, man. You get cooler by the minute, brother. That's pretty awesome, dude. I joke with my wife. That's why we go to a church of 10,000 people, because I have the worst voice ever, but I love singing, man. And but I don't want anybody to hear it. I want it to be drowned out.
Well, there's science behind that. When you're singing, actually releases serotonin in your brain. So that's why, like, some of our ancestors in the morning, singing or just loud speaking or yelling or sort of shouting releases those feel-good chemicals in your brain, that reinforce healthy behavior. And so that's why a lot of Paleolithic people would wake up, and this isn't bro science, I swear, although my timelines might be wrong, get up and just yell, greet the sun with a big like guttural yell, because it releases those chemicals in your brain and gets you feeling good, energized to start the day.
I Love that, man. It's a great tip. I usually, a lot of my 2 or 3 days a week, I do garage workouts, man, just pull-ups and circuits. And I got the Jesus music going. I'm shouting at the top of my lungs, man. And I tell you what, I feel like that's why I got a lot of energy, man. That gets me feeling good right away. So I'm going to go by real science, and there's bro science behind that. Cause
all the best science is both, right?
That's very true, man. Well, brother, I want to thank you so much. I want to respect your time. We're at about an hour, but thank you so much for coming on. Can you tell people where to find you? And I'll link all of your info below this podcast so people can. But if anybody's listening to this and they don't see the links below, where can they find you and connect with you?
Yeah, man. I'm on Twitter at saveyoursons, all connected, all one word. My DMs are open. I try to respond to as many people as I can. And Save Your Sons University, you can sign up for that at SYSU. So Save Your Sons University, SYSU.co. So SYSU.co. And you just go in there, click sign up, and you're right in the community, and we'll get you hooked up with all the guys and start having conversations in there. And you can email me too. I still do email. I'm old enough that I'm not completely off email yet. And that's just info@saveyoursons.com.
Man, that's awesome. Well, I'm so grateful for the wisdom you share every single day on the platform, man. I know you've made me a better man, a better father, better husband, and I'm truly grateful, man. So thank you so much for coming on, brother. I really appreciate it.
Hey, likewise, Ty. I'm so glad that we connected and that we got to do this podcast, and I can't wait to keep growing with you, keep getting better with you, and keep helping people with you, man.
Amen, brother. I feel like, again, you have the biggest mission in the world, that we could really make the biggest impact on our society. And I'm rooting for you every day, man. I'm right there with you, championing this cause, man. So I really appreciate you. Guys, thanks again for tuning in. Give a good like to the channel, and subscribe would be much appreciated. Helps the channel a lot. Throw a comment down below what you'd like to see next time, or any guests that you'd like to see. Going to say we got some big names coming on next. Actually, Zuby is going to be in Las Vegas next week. Going to get him on the podcast. Pretty pumped about that. We got Dr. Taylor Burrows and Cynthia Thurlow coming on. So I'm pretty pumped about that. But thanks for joining. Again, very super grateful to Save Your Sons. You guys have an amazing evening. God bless.